And welcome, Hoosier Nation, to our 172nd episode of the Hoosier Sound, where we are the official podcast of IndianaHQ. Our mission and goal is simple. We want to bring in-depth analysis and coverage for Indiana University sports to as many fans as possible across a multitude of modern platforms. We are recording this edition of the Hoosier Sound on December 8th, 2020, where I'm your host, Nithin Krishnan. Here with me tonight is my usual partner, Matt Lukens, and our newest IndianaHQ member, Jevan McCoskey. Jevan, how's life? Welcome to the show. Man, we were just talking before the show started tonight. What a crazy day we've had in IU sports. Really, what a crazy week we've had.
I mean, IU sports, yeah, but in the sports world in general, I mean, Big Ten football got hit real hard with a bunch of things. It's been crazy, and I'm excited to be able to be here and talk about things on the first episode that I've been on.
Absolutely. And Matt, I mean, same question to you, man. How's life? I saw your Eagles made a QB switch. Jalen Hurts running the show now. I mean, that just means Michael Penix Jr. is going to be there in a year or two. Isn't that true? I mean, come on. I mean, other than that, how's life?
Wow, way to open that up. Way to not hit it where it hurts, Nithin. Gosh.
Yeah, well, here's the deal. I mean,
no pun intended, really, with the hurt.
Oh, wow. Oh, man. Look, I mean, to be honest, to those of you listening right now, like, whenever you hear this is probably the most friendly we're going to sound on this episode tonight because in the last 24 to 48 hours, all we've seen is the Big Ten and the CFP rankings committee, the College Football Playoff Rankings Committee, hurl feces at the face of Indiana University football. It's been a ridiculous stretch of news that we've gotten here. What's with the disrespect, Jevan? I mean, the rankings just came out a minute ago. IU remained number 12. I said remained after a road win at number 16, Wisconsin. And I don't care how good or bad Wisconsin is. Teams usually don't go in there and win, whether they're ranked or unranked or whatever. Indiana won 14-6. What's going on here? Why is IU not getting any love from the CFP coming after the AP voted them number 8?
I mean, to keep it as simple as possible, like I don't know why we're getting disrespected so much. I mean, we're a program that has, not really seen much success in the last couple of years, so maybe that might have something to do with it. But like when you look at the teams that we've beaten, the streaks that we've ended for ourselves as a program, like we're getting national publicity and things like that. But like, I don't know the disrespect. I don't know. I don't know where the disrespect's coming from, honestly.
I know exactly where it's coming from, Jevan, and that is that historically we've been terrible. And so when people associate Indiana, they associate to the bottom feeders of the Big Ten. That means to the national media, we are on the same level as a Rutgers, a Maryland, where we just kind of sit there and everybody kind of laughs at them and, ooh, look, Indiana's spooky this year. They might scare Ohio State again. That'll be a fun game to open up with on ESPN and talk about Lee Corso the whole time. And then nothing will happen for them for the rest of the year. But this year, instead, we opened up with Penn State. We haven't beaten forever. Was number 8. They came into Bloomington. We beat them on a miracle last-second 2-point conversion. Great. And it's been uphill since then. And there's been no talk about us since then. But we're not a draw. We're not an Oklahoma. We're not a Texas. We're not a blue blood of college football that's going to get people talking on Paul Feinbaum on Wednesday afternoon, calling in and talking to them. And this is all for ratings, and it's so stupid. And we're caught right up in the middle of it with the likes of the Chanticleers from Coastal Carolina and the rest of the people who deserve to be ranked. Cincinnati, who's undefeated, we should be talking about more, isn't being talked about enough because there's a 2-loss Iowa State that skips them.
Yeah, I was talking to one of my roommates, and he was like, what it really comes down to? It comes down to money at the end of it. I mean, money is the root of all evil, and it's the root of Indiana's evil in this case. I mean, if Ohio State gets in, it's going to be because of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to me, like, what blows my mind, right? Like, the money argument, it's obviously real, especially when you talk about the Big Ten part of it, right? We got the Big Ten news earlier today. We're going to get to that in a minute. But the CFP rankings committee should have some sort of desire to be taken seriously. And when you keep Indiana at number 12, and again, no one's saying Indiana should be in the top 4. That's not the point here. I know there are some media members out there that are saying, oh, Indiana college football playoff. That's not what I'm saying. If you don't bump Indiana up above Oklahoma, or up above Miami. I mean, Oklahoma struggled against Baylor over the weekend. Indiana should have leapfrogged them. Miami is a respectable team, but Georgia has no business being number 9. Georgia's got no business being number 9. And those are a couple teams that we pointed out on last week's show that for whatever reason still received that type of credit. And by the way, for just to put it clearly, this is not just the three of us being upset at these new rankings. If you go around Twitter, you can look at Indiana coaches, running backs coach Mike Hart, special teams coach Casey Teagarden, that have already jumped on social media and said, man, this is ridiculous. They're tweeting emojis. They're tweeting stuff about disrespect. The players have obviously jumped on that wagon as well. It's no surprise to any one of you listening that Indiana cares a lot about who they are and what they've built, and they care a lot about the character and toughness in that room, and they believe they deserve everything that they get. And when they get spat on the face, like they were just spat on the face by the CFB rankings committee, the College Football Playoff Rankings Committee, it's going to result in some sort of consequence. So, I mean, here's the deal, Matt. As we look at the future of college football, I mean, what's Indiana going to do now, right? I mean, I guess you can't appeal the ranking. Is this team in legitimate, territory of not playing in a New Year's Six bowl game, even if they win out and have just one loss to Ohio State?
I don't think so. I currently, you're looking at the college football playoff show. If you're watching, they did the projected bowls, and IU was not among the New Year's Six bowls, and everybody goes, "What is going on? What is this blasphemy?" Right? That's one of the teams between Iowa State and Oklahoma have to play each other in the Big 12 title game. One of those teams will lose. We will eventually take their spot as long as we don't lose a game from now until when the bowl game is selected. Because the Pac-12 gets an automatic bowl to the Fiesta Bowl, bid to the Fiesta Bowl. That's why you saw USC on there as a number 15 team when we're number 12. And you're like, how is USC ahead of us? How is Oklahoma ahead of us? Yada, yada, yada. Pac-12 gets an automatic bid to the bowl. Big Ten gets an automatic bid to the Rose Bowl, and that's it. I don't know why the Pac-12 gets 2 automatic bids and the Big Ten only has 1, I believe. So that makes no sense to me at all. That's something that the commissioners have to get together and talk about in the future, because the Pac-12 doesn't produce 2, New Year's Six caliber teams every year. And the Big Ten definitely does every year. So I don't understand what the logic is behind that. And moving forward, as IU is improving and looking into next year, right, we're probably going to be ranked in the top 10 again next year, returning most of our starters. We're going to be dealing with the same thing next year, which is that we haven't played anybody, and it's going to be week 8, and it's going to be the same problem. And that is, again, because we're a newer program. The same thing was happening to UCF years ago. The same thing would happen to a team like Oregon State if they did it in the Pac-12, which they are. They're beating Oregon, and they're not even getting any national love. And they might even be competing for a Pac-12 title out there in Corvallis. So
yeah, exactly. And as part of that auto bid situation versus at large and Pac-12 getting 2 teams in, I think this year's a bit strange because the Rose Bowl is part of the Final Four. It's part of the college football playoff semifinal. So, typically if a Big Ten or Pac-12 team were to make the playoff, the second place team in that conference would get that Rose Bowl bid. But things are all a little crazy right now. USC, I think, traditionally would have gotten that Rose Bowl spot. But because of the situation there with the CFP semifinal, I think now the auto bid goes to the Fiesta. I do need to double check that. But Jevan, I'm going to ask you the same question. I mean, Indiana undoubtedly deserves to be in a New Year's Six bowl. If they finish 8-1 and have wins over number 8 Penn State, a ranked Michigan team, probably a ranked Iowa team a week from Saturday, if all things go to plan, they can't miss out, right? I mean, they deserve a spot in the Fiesta Bowl or whatever New Year's Six bowl.
Yeah, and I would hate to sound like a broken record with what Matt said, but I mean, and I don't want to repeat everything Matt just said, but one of those teams, but you almost kind of have to, because that's the kind of space that we're in. So I mean, like he said, one of those 2 teams has to lose. IU will, I don't want to say will, because then more disrespect may come, but in all likelihood, we will play in one of those 6 games. But I'll keep it like that.
No, I mean, look, it's simple. I mean, Matt laid it out. I think everyone pretty much is on board there. It's unbelievable to see a team go on the road and win an established program like Wisconsin, and then for some reason not even move up in the rankings. Again, what a disconnect. The AP has IU number 8. Whereas the CFP committee has them number 12. But, earlier today, before 7 p.m., we received news that the Big Ten has a little situation on their hands. Michigan, because of an increasing number of COVID cases in their program, decided that the best course of action was to cancel the game against Ohio State. And based on the current rules that the Big Ten has set out, and again, we're recording this on Tuesday night, and probably should refresh Twitter. Something new probably comes. But look, based on the current policy, teams that have 3 cancellations, and I'm really summarizing this, condensing it quite a bit. But if you miss 3 games, you're ineligible to participate in the Big Ten title. Wisconsin has had to deal with this already. They had 3 cancellations a week or 2 ago. They reached their 3rd a week or 2 ago. Ohio State, by virtue of not playing Michigan, would have number 3 coming up this Saturday. Yet, here's the deal. The Big Ten has released a statement saying, well, we're contemplating a change. We're thinking about staying flexible. All of a sudden, flexible is a great word in Big Ten land. Jevan, what should the Big Ten do here? Should they stay the course? Should they give Ohio State an auto bid? Is Ohio State really the best team in the Big Ten? Are they the most deserving? Is there any sort of other crazy idea you can think of? What should the Big Ten do here?
Well, I have a question to ask you two both first. Do you think that if that they're only considering it because it's not necessarily Ohio State's fault, since it's Michigan that has all that are following the COVID-19 protocol? Like, do you think if it was Ohio State that had the players that were testing positive to the point where they couldn't participate in practice or a game on Saturday, do you think they would still be having this conversation?
I think they still would be having this conversation because they cost themselves by losing the COVID battle, right? When you went into the season, we knew we were playing 2 different games. Yeah. You're playing football and you're playing making sure you stayed healthy. And if you won both of those and played all of your games, this was not an issue. And Ohio State knew that they were going to be a college football playoff contender before the season started. So I don't understand why their players weren't taking it seriously. Their staff wasn't taking it seriously and doing everything they possibly could not to get a COVID case. IU hasn't had this problem until this week when it's now starting to get really, really bad again. Ohio State had this problem 3 weeks ago. This is their fault. They cost themselves games. They had games ready and they couldn't play them. They couldn't go and play. I think it was Illinois, right? They were scheduled to play Illinois. They couldn't play Illinois because they were the ones with the COVID issues, not Illinois. So they shot themselves in the foot, and then they want to go and look at Michigan and blame it on Michigan? No. It's your fault. You could have not been in this situation. Right. We are all adults here. Let's take some responsibility. You knew what the rules were before the season started. You knew you could lose games. So every game that you could possibly get that was with a healthy opponent, you had to take advantage of. It is their fault that they're in this situation. Not Illinois', not Michigan's, not Minnesota's. Their fault.
Okay, well then, I don't mean to play devil's advocate, but if it's that case, then can't you kind of say for IU, like, you had the chance to beat Ohio State and you didn't?
Absolutely, but the rules were set before the season started that you needed to play 6 games. We follow the rules. They did not. The rules take precedent over the record, as previously stated in the rules.
Absolutely.
You agreed to the rules. You agreed to restart. Now, if you want to get mad at the Big Ten commissioners for starting the season, not starting the season when we had the proper bye weeks in order to account for missing games, then yes, that's acceptable. You can be upset at that because they stopped it and then restarted without really much of a plan in place. But the rules were, everybody agreed when they started the season, everybody agreed together saying these were the set out rules. And so it makes no sense to me that now we're sitting here talking about it 3-4 weeks later when we could have talked about it during the Illinois game, and we knew this is going to be an issue further down the line.
Yeah, sorry about that. Guys had some technical difficulties there. I mean, look, I think you hit on all the right points. I mean, it's not only a question of what would they do if it was Ohio State's fault or not, right? What if the tables were turned? And I think this is a point that Crimson Cast made on their podcast earlier this week, right? If Ohio State had a close home win. I'm sorry, let's flip the table. If Indiana had a close home win over Ohio State and you saw a lot of these other similarities, would they bend over backwards to put Indiana in the playoff? And the answer to that is obviously they would not. So I mean, there are so many moves.
Uh-oh.
Man, sorry guys. Nithin is having a bit of internet issues. But as Nithin was saying, they would not move IU into the playoff. They would not move Earth and the moon to try to get us in. They will do that for Ohio State. And Jevan, why would they do that? And that's because what you said earlier and your friend said earlier, and that's the money, right? The Johnny Manziel sign, right? Ohio State is a national TV draw. You can get people out to watch at a 9 p.m. game on the East Coast to watch Ohio State Clemson, because you know the national TV audience is going to be like 14 million people watching.
Right.
And whereas if it was Indiana Clemson, it would be like 7 million, which is half the people that they want. So when we're looking at it, they are promising advertisers this amount of viewers and this amount of viewerships. They're promising that they're going to sell this many tickets and that they're going to bring in this much revenue from tourism for the city of Glendale, right? And so now we're sitting here and will IU do the same thing? And it's no. And so then you have to ask yourself, why even have a college football playoff? Why even just just make it the National College Football League and just have 32 teams and they'll just make it the NFL mini. Like, why are we doing this? The magic of college football is that anybody can make the championship game. That's the magic of March Madness. That's what makes March Madness great, is that anybody can make the Final Four that makes the tournament. Now you want to argue that maybe some teams get kept out of the NCAA tournament when they should be in because of monetary reasons about ticket sales. Sure, you have it there too. But at least 60 teams make a shot and not 4. You want to expand the playoff to 8? Fine. This is a whole separate conversation that I'm slowly digging myself into. But I think it's absurd that you have teams that are 7-1 in their conference. We beat 3 ranked teams. We've ended a bunch of stuff, and it's not our fault. We can only beat the people on our schedule, right? It's the same argument that UCF had a couple years ago for the national championship and going to the college football playoff. They were undefeated. They could only beat the people on their schedule, and they did. We did our job. We went 6-1. Sorry, we didn't beat Purdue, but we probably would have. We went 6-1, and now we're sitting here like, what the heck? Because we're not getting any national respect, and it's just BS. It really is. It's national media garbage right now.
Well, and not just the media, right? They were talking about the committees,
it's
the
everybody.
It's across the board. Social media, you name it. Yeah, it's everywhere. So that's really where things are at right now. I mean, do either of you have any creative ideas to throw out there as far as the Big Ten situation is concerned? One of our good friends, Rob, suggested, hey, of the 4 teams that have won at least 3 games in Big Ten play this year, really sort of the clear-cut 4 best teams in the Big Ten, Ohio State, Indiana, Northwestern, and Iowa. What if you just pit them against each other this weekend? Winners playing the Big Ten title game next week. Is there anything else either of you can think of as far as real outside-the-box ideas here? Because instead of just mentioning the problems, the Hoosier Sound podcast likes to give some solutions.
Well, I mean, I did see one solution that was, Ohio State plays Indiana this week. But, I mean, giving them 2 days notice to like 2 days prep to play for a team, I don't see any team really agreeing to do that on either side. But that would be like maybe the only thing that I could really think of, other than what Rob said, of course.
I have a different idea. And here's my
this will be good.
Here's my creative. It's what you said. It's Indiana plays Ohio State again in Lucas Oil next Tuesday night. So forget Sunday, forget Saturday. Give them a full preparation period to play, as long as, again, we're COVID safe, right? We have enough players to play. That Tuesday night, we have a one-off. Ohio State plays us one more time to make it to the Big Ten title, to go play what is going to be a cupcake of a West team in Northwestern. Sorry, I hate Ramsey, but it's just Ohio State's going to stop you. So,
or Indiana,
right? We could beat Ohio State. So, one game Tuesday night, Lucas Oil Stadium. We'll see you there, Ohio State. We'll play you. We have it. The national TV audience will be there. Everybody's eyes will be on the Big Ten and Indiana. It's a top 10 matchup in the AP poll. We'll play it on Fox, ABC, whoever wants to play it. All three can play it.
Discovery Channel, National Geographic.
Yeah, we don't care who is there as long as it could. I'm not even going to go there. It could be a local guy with a TV camera. We don't care. We're going to play them in Lucas Oil on Tuesday. And you know what? If we lose the game, our 2 losses are to Ohio State. We probably still make a New Year's 6, and we get the national TV attention that we need. I think we still have a very good shot of beating them. I know a lot of people on Twitter were looking at me like I was crazy when I said we should play them again. Look, they're down. They're still missing starters who are out still quarantining due to COVID. So it's a shorthanded Ohio State team. We lost them by 7, and our defense outplayed them in the second half. It's a very close game, and that was in Columbus. This is Lucas Oil on a truly neutral field. Something that obviously everybody at IU who grows up watching the Colts in the area will be absolutely fired up to play Ohio State in Lucas Oil. And then a shot to play there again the following week. Of course, then you talk about, well, you have to play again on Saturday, Matt, for the Big Ten championship if we beat Ohio State. And that would be, they'd obviously have to move that back a couple of days for that game. But again, that's not going to happen, but I wish this would happen because it's a good story and it'd be good for the Big Ten. I don't know why Ohio State would decline this either, but.
Well, I agree with you. I mean, like you said, IU would have a chance in the game. I mean, when you have a defense that is turned into as an elite defense as Indiana has, you have a shot in any game, no matter who you play. Our offense has games where we don't put up points, but I mean, our defense has won us a couple games. So I agree with you. I mean, in any game that Indiana plays, they have a chance to win just based off the elite defensive play that we have.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, right? These are probably the conversations and discussions they're having in the Big Ten offices right now. Well, I guess probably on Zoom among the people on the Big Ten exec committee. So that's what they're thinking about right now. We'll see what kind of alternate plans come down the pipeline here. Again, just to be perfectly clear, no alternate arrangements have been announced yet. So as far as things are considered as of this minute at 8:53 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday night, December 8th, Indiana is the Big Ten East representative in the Big Ten championship game. Will it stay that way? Who knows? But it's time for Who Won the Week here on our podcast, and we try to look around in IU sports world and try to pick someone usually outside of football or men's basketball to see if someone's really made a big difference. Here's the deal. We're going to keep it to football. You know why? Because Indiana had a pretty darn good week up in Madison, and as a result, linebacker Micah McFadden was named the Walter Camp Award National Player of the Week on the defensive side. He was also named the Big Ten Defensive Player of the Week. How about Ty Freifogel? And this is a list of players who have gotten national recognition for their season-long accomplishments. Ty Freifogel, Michael Penix Jr., punter Hayden Whitehead, and even defensive coordinator Kane Womack all got mentioned to their respective positional award watch lists or nominees as we head into the final week of this 8-game regular season, a couple of weeks to go before the season ends. So once again, Freifogel, Penix Jr., Hayden Whitehead, Kane Womack, all announced as major award nominees here as the season winds down. Of course, on the basketball side, you also had Trace Jackson Davis, who was named Big Ten Player of the Week. So really, all in all, a very strong week for the Indiana Hoosier football team and for Trace Jackson Davis as well, who got that recognition. Of course, just a reminder, if you would like to subscribe to our podcast for free, all you have to do is search for the Hoosier Sound wherever you listen to podcasts. Stay up to date with all of our information by following us over on Twitter at IndianaHQ. Quickly, guys, let's recap that football game that happened on Saturday. I mean, isn't it ridiculous that we're sitting here and we've talked for 20 minutes, 24 minutes really, and we haven't talked about Indiana going on the road and winning in Madison, a game that Indiana had, an accomplishment that Indiana hadn't registered in about 20 years or so. I think their last road win was 2001 against Wisconsin. Their last win overall against the Badgers was 2002. I mean, it's been a pretty remarkable season where they've crossed off a ton of things off the checklist, beating Penn State for the second time in the rivalry's history, beating Michigan for the first time since 1987, and now they beat Wisconsin for the first time since 2001. I'm not really sure who the star of the game was, Jevan, but overall, what are your thoughts as you watched Indiana go up to Camp Randall Stadium and get a 14-6 win over the Badgers?
Well, I mean, it's just what I said less than 5 minutes. It's defense. The guy. You go into Wisconsin. You only scored 14 points. Do you expect to walk out with a win in that game? Honestly, No, you don't. But you have a defense that Indiana has when they force turnovers. They create takeaways and they hold powerful, potent offenses to minimal yards per game. That's what they do. I mean, they lead the nation in interceptions. They're in the top, whatever in sacks, and they're just an overall force to be reckoned with on defense. So that's my biggest takeaway from the game. Also, I mean, you have Jack Tuttle come in and play. He played fairly well. He played smart. He didn't try to force things. Threw a beautiful ball to Wap in the back corner of the end zone. It was overall very well. It was sloppy. I mean, any 14-6, it's not going to be the prettiest game. But my biggest takeaway is how well the defense continues to play week in and week out.
Yeah, we talk about Micah McFadden, right? 9 tackles in that game, 2 sacks. He's got 5.5 on the season. Matt, I mean, Jack Tuttle, man, let's talk about the quarterback. In the afternoon, he was 13 of 22, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns, decent quarterback rating. The ESPN QBR had him at 84.3 out of 100. I mean, Tuttle's the guy now. He put up a solid performance against the nation's number 1 defense, according to the S&P Plus ratings.
He's got a little bit more escapability than Penix does. He's got better footwork is really what the difference between him and Penix. If you could give Penix Tuttle's footwork, oh my God, what a quarterback Penix would be. But no, I mean, Jack's great. He was pretty accurate. His stats lie a bit because he's 13 of 22, but that Miles Marshall drop should be a completion and another, a 50-yard completion and a touchdown there.
Yeah.
So you're looking, his stat line should be 14 of 22, 183 touchdowns. That's a good day. We win 21-6. It's a lot better looking win than 14-6, obviously. I can't believe Miles Marshall dropped that pass. Anyways, that should have been a touchdown, but I thought he did very well. And again, this Wisconsin team is known for having good defense. Yeah. Year after year, you can always count on. I mean, and this is a good Wisconsin defense. Again, the surprise this year going into the season or after the first game, I guess, after they beat Minnesota for Wisconsin was, oh my God, Wisconsin has an offense because they always have a defense. You always know that the Badgers are going to show up and shut out a couple teams. Yeah. And Jack, for his first game playing, looked pretty comfortable. Looked a little bit uncomfortable at the start, but don't blame him. Came out, made a couple really good throws. There's a couple out routes that he hit that were like the only option that we had because, again, good Wisconsin defense, good coverage, and he put the ball right where it needed to be, found that read, found the open man on what should have been 1 touchdown to Miles Marshall, and then the second touchdown, found the open guys, and that's all you can ask for. And we found a running game, Nithin.
Yeah.
We found a running game.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
Finally. I mean, it's funny, right? You look at the numbers, they averaged 2.8 yards a carry on the ground, but it was one of those things. Nick Sheridan, the IU offensive coordinator, said it in Monday's press conference once sort of the dust had settled. He said, look, I know the numbers aren't pretty, but we kind of did what we wanted to do. That's almost a direct quote from Sheridan back on Monday. He said, we kind of did what we wanted to do. We wore them down a little bit. We were able to get Stevie Scott involved. David Ellis had a couple of decent runs out of the backfield. And he also said the game flow, the low level of snaps in the game didn't allow guys like Tim Baldwin or Samson James to get into the game. If IU does play Purdue on Saturday, expect them to get some run. Also, no pun intended, as they face the Boilermakers. But yeah, I mean, going back to Tuttle, we saw at least I saw a guy, and I was watching this game from the press box at Camp Randall Stadium. I saw a guy who was confident. I saw a guy who wasn't scared of the spotlight. And like you said, Matt, some of those incompletions he had on Saturday, not just the Marshall drop, but I can even pick out a few others where he got hit as he threw the ball. He could have gotten a little bit more help from Wap Fillier, who I believe had to drop over the middle. A couple of his throws, I believe, were just throwaways. A couple of his incompletions were throwaways under pressure. So overall, I would say that almost every throw that he made was on the spot, on the money, or just a smart decision. So overall, to me, it was a B+, A- type performance from Tuttle against the Badgers.
Well, one more thing that just looking through the stats, like kind of pops to me is that he found 6 different receivers. And if Marshall catches that ball, he finds 7. So he did a really good job of spreading the ball around. With the 13 completions he had, he found 6 different receivers. So that's very impressive.
Yeah, and then you also figure, I believe Ty Freifogel was interfered once down the sideline. If that connects, that's another 30-yard gain. So things like that. Overall, I liked what I saw at Jack Tuttle. It's just another testament to Tom Allen's recruitment and his development of players on both sides of the ball. It doesn't matter what position you play. Doesn't matter how young or old you are. Doesn't matter if you're a high school recruiter or transfer. Seemed like the post-game keyword. The post-game motto was they play as a team. They're together as a team. You saw it with all the players patting him on the back or on the shoulder, jumping on him in his interview with Holly Rowe with ABC. You saw it in a lot of the post-game videos that were posted to social media. All in all, it's a real team effort, and Tom Allen and his improvement that you saw in Jack Tuttle is a real indicator of that. Real quick, I guess let's briefly preview Purdue. I mean, there's some news coming down on both sides. There's some news coming down on both sides that there are some positive tests that have come down, and while no official news has come down on the game, both schools. Indiana has paused football activities. Purdue has just canceled practice for this Tuesday. We'll see how these things develop as the week progresses. It's a very offensive-minded team, the Boilermakers. David Bell and Rondale Moore, the wide receivers, are a couple of guys you're going to see play at the next level. Indiana is number 8 in the AP poll. We're never going to use the CFP rankings anymore. They've lost all credibility in my eyes. Number 8 Indiana is currently scheduled to return home and face unranked Purdue. I use a 10.5-point favorite over under 51.5, so you can do the math, something like a 31-20 final score. The kick is scheduled right now to be at 3:30 Eastern on Big Ten Network. Purdue scored 27 points a game. So, Jevan, as you look at the matchups, Purdue has the fewest rushing yards per game in the Big Ten, the most passing yards per game in the Big Ten. It seems pretty simple. Guys like Tywan Mullen and Reese Taylor have to bring it on Saturday.
Yeah, but when you're facing a wide receiver core with David Bell and Rondale Moore, it's going to be extremely tough. I see you shaking your head. Are you agreeing with me, Matt, or are you disagreeing with me?
No, I completely agree with you. Those are some bad guys in their team. They're real good.
Like, David Bell's a sophomore, and so far this season he has 53 catches, 625 yards, and 8 touchdowns. Just a quick story on David Bell. I went to Terre Haute South Vigo High School. He went to Warren Central, and we played them in the regional final for basketball my senior year, and he gave us 25 in basketball. So, like, he's just an all-around superb athlete. And then with Rondale Moore, he's a pretty solid first-round pick, if some might say, for wide receiver. So, yeah, I mean, the secondary is what's going to be the big deal for IU this week through practice, if we end up having practice, let alone a game on Saturday. And then I think also you got to focus with Jack Tuttle. Just keep being confident, like pour confidence into him throughout the entire week. It's an important game for IU. The Buckeye game, it's an important game for both sides. It's a big game. So, yeah, I would say basically the secondary needs to be able to focus in on trying to contain David Bell and Rondale Moore, because you're not going to stop them.
Yeah, yes. I mean, that's the way I look at it. Bell leads the conference in receptions. He's second in yards. He's first in touchdowns. Obviously a great receiver. And Rondale Moore is also going to be a first-round pick. So, he's gonna cause IU tons of problems with his shiftiness and agility on the field. Matt, Purdue's defense on the other hand stinks. And last week they gave up 37 in Nebraska. You picked that upset last week, and the Cornhuskers delivered for you. So talk to me, Matt. When Indiana's offense, who scored just 14 points last week, takes the field on Saturday, as they're scheduled to at least, against Purdue, what sort of things do you expect to see for Indiana to get a lot out of when they have the football?
A lot of movement. What Nebraska did to Purdue's defense last week was absolutely confuse the living crap out of Purdue's defense. Again, Nebraska is a Scott Frost offense. They move the tight end out wide, and they move it back in the middle, and they move it back out wide, and the running back is running around in circles and behind, and they hike the ball, and all of a sudden it's going to a wide receiver. A bunch of movement just to confuse the defense is the point. A bunch of feints, right? A little trickeration in there. IU needs to do a little bit more of that, which means if we're going to score in this Purdue defense, like I think we will, we got to get somebody like a David Ellis involved, right? Somebody can go into the backfield, go back out to wide receiver, get those linebackers for Purdue all mixed up, and all of a sudden you have a one-on-one matchup with a linebacker. and a wide receiver or a running back or whatever. Work your matchups well, and you're going to score on this Purdue defense. Also, they don't have a lot of interior defensive linemen. And that's due to, again, some injuries, some opt-outs for Purdue. So their run defense hasn't been fantastic this year. No. So, again, look for somebody like a Stevie Scott to get some more touches and hopefully get going before the bowl game. That's, again, if we play. By the way, speaking of David Bell, he is incredible. But just imagine if he had picked IU over Purdue.
My goodness.
Imagine if we had Penix and David Bell, Wap, and Ty Rifle.
Oh my gosh.
This wide receiver core would have been scrumptious. But instead, we have to watch him in terrible gold and black. But,
well, I mean, the crazy part is Bell's just a true sophomore. He was named second team All Big Ten last year.
He's
By the way,
first team All Big Ten this year.
Without a doubt. Quick side note: there are 3 Big Ten ACC games going on right now in basketball world, and they're all 2 possessions or less as they come down to the wire. So, as usual.
Oh, wow.
The Big Ten ACC Challenge is delivering on that note. But yeah, Indiana is a 10.5 point favorite for a reason. I expect this to be a get Stevie Scott right type of game. I expect him to get something like 120, 150 yards on the ground. A really solid day, especially if the weather doesn't cooperate. It's always possible when you get to December in Bloomington, Indiana. So curious to see what we see there. Indiana, once again, very much projected to beat the Boilermakers and finish the regular season 7-1. I mean, under normal circumstances, 7 Big Ten wins in a season would be ridiculous. In this year, where all you've done is play Big Ten opponents, seven wins is amazing. We would have taken 7 Big Ten plus non-conference win in previous years. So pretty special year without a doubt for Tom Allen and his team. So it's time for our predictions. Matt and Jevan, as you see Indiana take Purdue on Saturday, the Hoosiers won the bucket last year in double overtime. Matt, are we going to get another extra time special on Saturday, or is it going to be a little bit more relaxing?
If we get an extra time special on Saturday, I think my heart is going to explode. After the last couple of weeks, every game seems stressful. No, I don't think so. I think our defense takes it to a Purdue team that has been looked wobbly. I don't even know what their QB situation is. Again, I'm fairly certain that Plummer's their QB now. Mm-hmm. As O'Connell is out now. Yep. So again, you're looking at an inexperienced / rusty quarterback going up against the secondary that has the most interceptions in the league. Mm-hmm. That's probably not a great matchup if you look at Purdue. So my prediction is 30-14 because they're going to score. It's just we're not going to shut them out, but they'll score a bit. 30-14 IU. That's if we play though.
Right.
Yeah. Prediction: are they going to play or not? Jevan? Yeah. No, I'm kidding. You don't have to. It's up to you. But if IU and Purdue do play, Jevan, how do you see this game going?
Pretty similar to how Matt sees it going, and I also agree with you, Nathan. I hope that this game is a get Stevie Scott going type of game. I don't know about 150 yards. That's a lot of rushing yards, but I mean it'd be great. I'd take it. Maybe 150 yards as a team. I don't know, but it'd be good to see Stevie Scott get going, but also seeing Jack Tuttle get going if we do end up, getting to play on Saturday. But I would say 34-17. 34-17. So it's in the same kind of scoring range as Matt, but just a little more.
I like that. I'm going even more extreme. 45-10 Hoosiers. I think IU comes out and blows the doors off the Boilermakers. They don't have Aiden O'Connell. He's out. George Karlaftis, their star defensive end, who had 7.5 sacks last year, 2 this year. He's unavailable due to COVID-19. Overall, I just don't think this Purdue team is all that good. They've lost 4 in a row, and the opponents that they've lost to, not all that great. Northwestern and Minnesota to start the streak, okay, but Rutgers and Nebraska both in West Lafayette the last 2 weeks. I think Purdue's basically ready to pack it in. So I think IU's, even if it's a rivalry game, I think IU's going to win it. 45-10. So to wrap up the football part of our show, let's do our Big Ten picks of the week, you guys, as we look around the Big Ten football landscape and we try to give all of you listening an upset pick as well as a pick against the spread. Jevan, it's your first time on the show, so I'm going to let you kick things off. Who's your upset pick of the week, and what do you like against the spread? And, of course, remember, Michigan, Ohio State already canceled for Saturday.
Right. So my upset pick might not be it's not like a terrible upset. I'm going to stick with the the Iowa and Wisconsin game. Iowa being a 1.5 point underdog. I see them, especially coming off of the offensive performance. I know that Wisconsin played against IU's elite defense, but they did only put up 6 points. So I see Iowa against Wisconsin winning. And then in my spread, I'm going to take Michigan State to cover against Penn State as a 14.5 point dog. Michigan State comes off a really impressive win against Northwestern, 29-20, and Penn State has been very underwhelming and underachieving throughout the entire season. So so I'm taking Iowa over Wisconsin as a 1.5 point dog, and I'm going to take Michigan State to cover the spread.
Not so fast there, sir. Not so fast. Doing my best Lee Corso impression. I like your picks, but you're wrong. So
okay.
My upset pick is, and hear me out, is that Rutgers is going to beat Maryland. Maryland is favored by 8. I think Rutgers comes out and beats Maryland. Then I also expect Penn State to cover against Michigan State. I'm taking the opposite of you. I think this Penn State team has finally got it going. They're feeling like they're winning. This Michigan State team is down in the dumps, and they just got shut out by Ohio State, or they got stomped on by Ohio State, and they're going to shut it in for the season. So give me Penn State. So that's my upset is Rutgers beating Maryland and Penn State covered.
Yeah, I mean, guys, you need to listen to Matt's upset pick. I think this year you're something like 4-2 or 5-1, straight up picking upsets with one of those games getting canceled through the 7 weeks so far. So, might want to put a pretty penny on Rutgers. Although, like we said last week, IndianaHQ and the Hoosier Sound are not liable for any sort of wagering losses that happen.
Unless you win, I get 5.
Unless you win. As far as the upset pick goes, I mean, there are so many unique games this week, right? A lot of these rivalry matchups like Illinois Northwestern, of course, Indiana Purdue. I'm going to take Minnesota. And I know, Minnesota's had a very disappointing season, to say the least. But if Tanner Morgan suits up, and I'm assuming he will, I think he's the much better quarterback in that game against the Cornhuskers. And to me, Nebraska is kind of a joke anyway. So I'm going to take Minnesota to go into Lincoln.
Hate Nebraska. There's nobody on earth that hates Nebraska more.
I don't even – maybe not, but you know what? I'm sick and tired of hearing Nebraska. They shouldn't even be in the Big Ten. So get out of here. I'm going to take Minnesota. And on the spread side, I'm going to take Northwestern to cover 14 against Illinois. I think they're going to be chomping at the bit to get back on the field after their loss to Michigan State. They couldn't play last week against Minnesota, so I think Northwestern's going to come out guns a-blazing as much as they can against Lovie Smith's Illinois team. So that's what we've got as far as our Big Ten picks of the week. Matt, it's time for a social media shout out. So as you peruse Twitter and Instagram and Facebook or MySpace or whatever social media platform you like looking at, what stood out to you as far as the IU sports world is concerned?
Yeah, I mean, we were just talking about it earlier, right? The national disrespect. And then Coach Tom Allen, an hour ago, tweets earmuffs and blinders. And that's about all you need to know, is that the team is not going – well, I'm sure that the coaching staff is going to preach not to look at the polls. But if you do look at them, get upset about them and use it as a chip on your shoulder, which they will. Much of the staff has tweeted about it. Even the players have tweeted out the disrespect, complaining about it. Again, as they should. And they will use it, and they'll probably have it up in about 25 different places around the practice facility at IU, as they should. But Tom Allen, focused, eyes forward, looking at Purdue, and that's all good. So, again, that's Tom Allen's side. If you don't know what Tom Allen's Twitter account is, I don't know what you're doing. If you don't know what our Twitter account is, I don't know what you're doing either. And that's at IndianaHQ. Follow us at IndianaHQ on Facebook and Indiana.HQ on Instagram. Boom.
That's right. Bang. Social media shout out there. Yeah, I mean, I use football Twitter accounts getting more and more love here as the weeks go on. I remember at the start of the season there was something like 85 or 90,000 Twitter followers, and now they're really growing up there in the Big Ten rankings. So that's the football side of things, you guys. And there was a lot to discuss on the gridiron, all the news and all the disrespect. So let's shift gears a bit. Remember the IU basketball team? Of course you do. They come off a solid showing in the Maui Invitational where they went 2-1 with the only loss being to a really good Texas team, that was pretty much going toe-to-toe there with Villanova on Sunday. So the Longhorns are proving, as usual, they weren't just a fluke in Maui. They seem to be a really good squad. But IU has a big-time ACC Big Ten matchup in Tallahassee, of all places, as they take on the number 20 Florida State Seminoles, where IU is currently a 2-point underdog. The over-under is 140, so the odds makers are predicting something like a 71-69 final score in that game. Florida State's the 20th ranked team in KenPom as well, but IU is number 19 in the KenPom computer, so the Hoosiers are one spot above them, of course, with this game being in Florida State. With Matt in attendance, I don't know how much of a home court advantage the Seminoles are going to have. IU is fourth among teams that received votes but missed out on the top 25 in the AP poll. So the Hoosiers, with a win, almost certainly will jump into the top 25 when the rankings come out next Monday. Florida State is 1-0 this season. They played just a single basketball game, and it's completely meaningless. They stopped North Florida 86-58 back on Wednesday. They've got a bunch of guys who left their team. Patrick Williams was drafted fourth by the Chicago Bulls. Devin Vassell was an NBA draft pick as well, who went to San Antonio. And even Trent Forrest, who is a senior guard, he played his 4 years at Florida State and was signed as an undrafted free agent by the Utah Jazz. So plenty of strong, impressive players ended up leaving Florida State to go to the next level. But they bring in a lot of talent. The headliner is Scotty Barnes, a 5-star freshman who's the 7th-rated prospect in the country per 24/7 Sports. He's a 6'9" sort of guard, forward, wing, all fits, all size on all. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. One size fits all basketball player. He does everything. He can handle the basketball, shoot it, dunk it. You can do all sorts of stuff. Archie Miller said as much with effusive praise of him in his press conference earlier today. So while Florida State, their ranking is kind of staying the same year over year from last year to this year, they've got a completely different basketball team this season than they had last year. So, Matt, you're going to be there. You're going to be at Florida State to watch this game. What are some of the things you're looking forward to, especially on the IU side, if the Hoosiers are going to get this top 25 win?
How they're going to guard Scotty Barnes, because my Lord, he's a 6'9" guard that can handle the ball. He had 6 assists in their game against North Florida. Again, that's a game that they won by 30, but they should have won by even more because North Florida's terrible. Anyways, that's besides the point. But MJ Walker as well, one of their guards, is a very good guard, played 27 minutes, had 17 points, 4 rebounds. But again, Scotty Barnes has the ball in his hands most of the time. He's a 6'9" guard. Who is going to guard him? Because when you look at our wings that are going to guard him, I have no idea. Jevan has a little bit of an idea. So, Jevan, who do you think?
Well, I was just going to say this is a really big example of where we're going to miss Justin Smith.
Yes,
I feel like Justin Smith and Scotty could guard Scotty Barnes better than anybody else could on our team that we have right now.
Yep.
And like I was talking to Nithin before, I don't know if it was before you got on here or not, Matt. Scotty Barnes last year played at Montverde Academy with a potential number 1 overall pick in Cade Cunningham.
Yeah.
So he knows nothing but winning, and it's going to be tough to stop Scotty Barnes. Like you said, he can shoot the ball, handle the ball, dunk the ball, facilitate, make players around him better. He does literally everything on the basketball court. So it is. I don't have an answer, but I was just going to point out that Justin Smith this is where we're going to miss him.
This is the 3rd game in a row that we've played a freshman top 10 overall pick. We played Greg Brown in Texas. We played Zaire Williams and Stanford, and then we've played Scotty Barnes and now Florida State. So again, Trayce Jackson-Davis getting all the scouting attention he could possibly need for the NBA, because he's got 3 straight weeks where a top 10 overall pick is playing. And, of course, the NBA scouts love to go watch those games. This is going to be a very good game for somebody like Rob Finney, because, again, MJ Walker is a shifty guard. We're going to need defense on MJ Walker. And then offensively for the Hoosiers, work the ball into Trace. Feed him. Right? They play a very small team. Again, Scotty Barnes is the second largest player in the starting lineup, and he's a guard. He's 6'9". He's not going to be in the interior. Balsa Kopravica, who played at Montverde Academy, by the way, previously mentioned, is their starting center. Work it into Trace, get him into foul trouble, and all of a sudden this team becomes a lot more beatable.
Yep.
Yeah, Scotty Barnes was named the preseason ACC Freshman of the Year in a conference with North Carolina and Duke and Louisville. So you can understand that from a recruiting standpoint, from an athleticism standpoint, he's obviously highly regarded. Florida State was picked third in the preseason ACC poll, so you can imagine that the Seminoles are considered to be a really good basketball team. They were picked to finish just behind Virginia and Duke, ahead of North Carolina and Louisville in that conference.
Virginia team's good. Are we
We are not sure. We are not sure.
Good question. That would be a really interesting. I'm curious to see what they do in their Big Ten ACC matchup coming up here. But look, this is a IU team, looking at it from the Hoosier standpoint, that may have Joey Brunk and Al Durham. May also means may not. And the thing is, Archie Miller said in his press conference earlier today that we witnessed, Brunk is trending more towards out. Al Durham is trending more towards game time decisions. So we'll see who actually suits up and hits the floor during the game as IU takes on Florida State tomorrow night at 7:15 Eastern, Wednesday night on ESPN. Not only is MJ Walker a strong returnee for Florida State, don't overlook Raekwon Gray either. He's sort of a versatile wing type player. He's really big-bodied. He's agile. He's almost like a discount Zion. In all seriousness, they look very similar.
Very discount.
Very dollar store version of Zion Williamson. But it's funny because last year Raekwon Gray averaged 6 points, 4 rebounds. You can see that he's not at that Zion level. But when you look at the body type, 6'8", 260, he's somebody who fits sort of that physical mold. So that's where things are from an IU standpoint. One more thing I'm looking at, and again, it's strange, right? Because we don't have any valuable tape on this Florida State team, and this is where it's going to be really interesting to see how this coaching staff goes about game planning for the Seminoles. In their only game this year, Florida State gave up 50 field goal attempts to North Florida, 27 of which were from 3. So they really force you to take those perimeter shots. And the thing I'm going to be looking at as the entire game progresses, does Indiana sort of fall to that, sort of pattern of defense that Florida State shows, or do they really try to force the ball closer into the paint like they did against Stanford? And it worked out as they beat the Cardinal last Wednesday quite handily. So
North Florida had 11 3-pointers and only 8 2-pointers made.
Isn't that crazy?
Listen, the best 3-point shot comes off a post feed. Get it in and let him kick it back out. No matter what, the Indiana has to play through Chase Jackson Davis. And then once they get it, when and if they get Florida State in foul trouble, you have to knock down your free throws. That has been a constant theme. I'm a junior. Every year I've been here, we have not been able to shoot the 3, and we have not been able to make free throws. It is the most frustrating. They are free throws. I know it is said too much, but they are free. Knock them down. And then like the last thing is just offensive consistency. If we do start hitting a couple threes, keep it going. Like, feed the hot hand. If Trace gets going, feed the hot hand. And that's where Al more than Joey needs to play, because Al brings that aspect to the game that he's our best 3-point shooter. I mean, I know he might not be showing it so far this year, but he and then Rob probably are our best 3-point shooters. So we need Al to play in this game for more reasons than just shooting, but shooting especially.
And go off to what Jevan just said. He brought up something really specific, but it was really good. Work it into the post, right? But you can get more specific than that. Work it into the high post, because every time we get into the high-low, working with Race Thompson and Trace Jackson Davis, the offense looks phenomenal. Every time we go down the court and pass it around the perimeter and do some dribble handoffs, it drives me insane, because just work it into Race, into the high post, have Trace Jackson Davis pinned down low, and see if you can't work something out that way, because the offense works way better when you work it in the post. Because as Jevan said previously, And I'll repeat it again. The best 3-point shot comes from when you work into the post and kick it back out.
So you're not saying the best 3-point shot is
Devontae Green.
Anything Devontae, or so far what Christian Lander has done, which is just walk up to the center point line and jack it for it.
I would like to touch on Christian Lander.
Go ahead.
Okay. I'll go back to my past playing basketball. Now, I know I am not any D1 college basketball team. I didn't play for any good high-level D1 team. My senior year as a freshman, he gave my varsity team 40 points, okay?
Yeah.
As a freshman. And I know he's only supposed to be a senior this year, but I think as soon as he finds any sort of rhythm, whether it's a layup, consecutive layups, maybe getting to the free throw line, I think he's going to take off, and I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. Now, I know he's struggled a lot so far this year, but I mean, I followed him since probably his sophomore or junior year of high school. There was a video that surfaced whenever he took his visit to Louisville, and he did open runs with their Louisville team, and he was giving everyone their buckets. And that was whenever Louisville was ranked highly in the country. So I think as soon as he gets going, he's going to be a very valuable asset to this team. I mean, you can already see that he's already maybe behind Rob, but our shiftiest player when he has the ball in his hands. So I'm very excited, if you can't tell, that I'm excited to see him get going.
Yeah. One of the things I'm also going to be looking forward to in this game on Wednesday night is the turnover battle, because Florida State in their first game had 12 steals and 6 blocks against North Florida. And they're going to be doing all sorts of things as far as taking charges and double teaming when necessary, trapping if they can. They're a really stout defensive team, but can Indiana hold the basketball? Can they protect it? Can they prevent those easy live ball turnovers that turn into 2 easy points for Florida State? Those are the type of that's another thing I'm going to be watching in this really interesting Big Ten ACC matchup. So real quick, Matt, who you got on Wednesday night? IU or Florida State?
Well, I mean, I'm going to the game. I'm not going to go to the game to watch us lose. So go Hoosiers.
Wow. All right, Jevan.
Go Hoos.
What was that?
Oh man!
What was my prediction?
Well, I was just wondering who you thought was going to win.
Oh, I'll give you a score. I'll give you a score.
Okay. Let's see what Jevan's score is.
So I think IU's a very good defensive team, and I think you've seen that throughout the first couple of games. So I don't think I don't think the over will hit. I don't, because IU can't shoot the 3, and they're a very good defensive team. Yeah. So I think the score will be 52-57. IU.
Oh, look at that!
I like
Real
that.
rock fight. What do you have, Matt? While we're at it, just give us a score. Why not?
Actually, in the same. I think we're going to score a little bit more points. Again, it's going to be ACC challenge. I think we're going to be running up and down the floor. I think we'll get some good opportunities off of missed threes from Florida State to get out in transition. So I'm going to say 62-55 IU.
I'm going to go 66-65 Florida State.
Wow.
There you go.
Oh,
all right.
Wow.
Way to be
contrarian. We'll see. I hope I'm wrong. We'll see what happens. Look, as we wind down tonight, Matt, I'll just hand it right back to you. Your closing thoughts here. We had all sorts of stuff that we touched on tonight, from the CFP rankings to the football team's win over Wisconsin to this basketball matchup on Wednesday night against Florida State. Please don't talk about Jalen Hurts. What are your final thoughts?
I'm not going to talk about Jalen Hurts. I don't want to talk about Jalen Hurts. I'd rather talk about how the Eagles are going to pick Justin Fields. No. Honestly, the one thing I didn't get to talk about on this podcast, I'll leave the synopsis to you guys, was the play of Tywone Mullen and in this Wisconsin game. I thought he was fantastic. And I haven't seen anywhere that he's up for the national awards for cornerback, but he absolutely should be. And so should Jamar Johnson, who also had an interception on Saturday. Both these guys are fantastic. And I love having them in the program, but they need some national recognition because they are some of the best players at their position, and they're not getting enough love. Again, going back to what we started the podcast on, IU football not getting enough national love. These guys aren't getting enough national love. I know Pro Football Focus every week tweets out something about Tywone Mullen. And honestly, every single college football account should be, because Tywone's one of the best corners in the country. Jamar Johnson is one of the best safeties in the country, and we're lucky to have them.
I love that. Jevan, as we wind down tonight, what's on your mind here as we've got a whole buffet of stuff to pick from? What are your final thoughts tonight?
Well, what's on my mind right now may change within the next couple of hours. No one knows. I'm really looking forward to a game on Saturday against hopefully Purdue. I'm also really looking forward to the game tomorrow for basketball against Florida State. After we just had that conversation, I kind of got a little more excited for it. But I would agree with Matt. I think that our secondary needs a lot more recognition than just saying that we have, the most interceptions in college football. I think Tywan Mullen, I agree, is phenomenal. And Jamar Johnson as well. I agree with everything Matt said. But don't take what I'm saying and stick, hold me to it, because it might change within the next couple of hours.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for the basketball matchup, you guys. I mean, we saw Florida State and IU play each other last year. We're kind of getting the rematch. Of course, like I said, Florida State's team is completely different. Indiana's team's pretty different to what we saw last year. So it's not a carbon copy rematch, but this is going to be an interesting ball game. Like I said earlier, the point spread 2 points. You can expect it to be a close, hard-fought matchup between two teams, and I think you'll see both of these teams improve as the season goes on. So a win for either side will look really, really impressive on a resume that doesn't have too many chances at non-conference wins. So that's what I'm excited to look at as the Hoosiers take on the Seminoles Wednesday night. But that about wraps it up for our 172nd show of the Hoosier Sound. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your support. Thank you to our live audience, especially Chris Billings. You guys are all beautiful people. To hear more fantastic episodes like the ones you heard today, be sure to follow us at IndianaHQ to make sure you don't miss any in the future. You can also go to our website, IndianaHQ.com, to find it all in one place. Lastly, if you enjoyed our show, leave us a review, tell a friend, share our links. Your support really helps us grow this podcast and reach more passionate IU fans such as yourself. But as always, Hoosier Nation, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.